Hey guys, welcome back. Here's the book review of Anne Rice's Tale of a Body Thief. This was an amazing book. I really enjoyed it. I feel it was the second part to Interview with the Vampire, so I'll be talking about that. But overall, this book was really fast paced and I really enjoyed it. So sit back and enjoy, and thank you for watching. So starting from the beginning, this is Lestat going into another body. He's always wanted to be human again, and he gets the chance and something happens, and this is his adventure trying to get his body back from the person that he traded with, and he goes into this other body not knowing what to expect, and that kind of makes him more, I guess, wanting to be human again. But again, doing that, he kind of doesn't see what this other guy is about. He's actually a criminal, and this is not what he expected, that his friend David actually knew this, and he's like, Lestat, you cannot trust this guy. He is someone else, you can't trust him. So I'm going to give you every little thing that I wrote down or typed, whatever. I'm going to kind of go step by step, kind of telling you what I thought at this point in the book. So let's get started. So overall, I kind of say, Lestat, how I've missed your words, because the way Anne Rice writes is totally different from anything I've ever read. And I've really missed her writing style, and she's very unique compared to a lot of other authors that I've read. So I really missed her writing and her books. So her books are really considered to be not only fiction, but it seems like she's writing from Lestat's point of view, and in doing so, she's kind of writing a biography, Lestat's biography, and she really brings this character to life in a way that not a lot of authors can do. She's real descriptive in her words, and I think that's what makes these books really good. Starting on page 39, she mentions a very famous artist, which goes by the name of Rembrandt. And I wasn't sure how she was going to talk about Rembrandt. I was like, why is she even mentioning this artist? What is Lestat trying to get through to us? What he's trying to tell us something, and I just kind of went from there. By page 46, Lestat is being really rebellious, and he's not really listening to his friend David, and Lestat is really wanting to switch bodies, and he's telling David, I don't care what it takes, I'm gonna do this. David is just like, you have no idea what you're in for. Why are you even doing this, really, And he's like, you've never done this before. But in the story, he takes on this change that brings about this, I guess, spiritual being that he himself is, that goes into another body. So that's kind of where this adventure starts. And this is where he makes his decision. So he's like, you know what? I've said what I need to say. You're not going to listen, so you're going to do what you want anyway, so isn't that obvious? Page 58. This is where Anne Rice gives us a description of how she kind of mentions that she brings this book to be like the second part of Interview with the Vampire. Just like he's going back to his roots. He's going back to where it all started. This is where he eventually wants to go. He wants to go back to the house that he lived with Louis at, and eventually he does go there, but first of all, he wants to do what he wants to do, and he wants to switch bodies. By page 65, we find Lestat in Rio. This description was really different, I guess, because Interview with the Vampire was a little bit more descriptive in gothic kind of building-esque kind of things. And right here we are in Rio, and Rio is this whole other place and city. So it's not really the old Gothic scenery that we're used to in these books, and we're seeing what he's seeing, this whole new place that we don't expect him in. So by page 86, I'm actually going to read this one because I like the way I described this part. Lestat convincing David to drop all that he has right now to live a life he only dreams about, that he is worth living for. I really, really like this part. This is kind of Lestat's pushing David to, you know, do something with his life, live a life he's always wanted to live. And this is not something a lot of people do in their life. And so Lestat is trying to give him this chance. He's trying to make him come to his side, the dark side, being a vampire, having the freedom and will to just take on this whole other personality that he's never known before, and this is not something David wants to do. So by page 100, we see Lestat and David kind of arguing again. This is kind of David's last, say. He's like, Lestat, you're not going to listen to me. This is what's going to happen, So I'm actually going to read this part. It begins Lestat not listening to David and what he is telling him. He has this idea in his mind and he won't let it go. He tells him he won't talk to him ever again, but he laughs saying, yeah, like he won't talk to me again, and he leaves. By page 118, we see Lestat, but also we see the character that told the story of Lestat and him living together, Louis. And I really, really enjoyed this part because I kind of felt like we were coming back to Interview with the Vampire, and I just kind of want to read it. The confrontation between Lestat and Louis takes me back to Interview with the Vampire. I had to read this whole chapter. I can't put this book down. It's so good. So just saying that, I really this year wanted to continue with all of Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles. I kind of feel like these books are like something that really happened, but in this case they really didn't. But the way Lestat is telling us is that he kind of, I don't know, like he's trying to tell us that this stuff did happen, but yet society hides it as a work of fiction, but obviously it is fiction. So, but in the world, it's not really fiction, it's real to him. So he feels like he's trying to hide it because this is not something society is ready for, I guess. So by page 138, Lestat comes in contact with the person that he wants to switch bodies with, and we see who this person is, but not exactly his description and everything. So I just kind of want to read this. Wow, what a chapter of conversation back and forth with Lestat bargaining with this man to switch bodies with him and what he would do to switch bodies with him and the experience he would have. I thought I would know by this point the anticipation. So what I'm kind of talking about there is that it's kind of like we're being set up for this whole thing to happen, the switching of the bodies, and it doesn't happen. And I'm like, when are we going to get to this? Like, it is really good. It's trying to get us ready for this, whole change to happen, but yet it doesn't happen. It's like, this person's here, this is who he's going to switch bodies with, and it just ends that part and we go to the next chapter. So by 155, this chapter is kind of like Lestat and David on the phone. He's still convincing him not to turn with this guy, not to switch bodies, I guess. And he kind of goes on the phone for a couple of pages. And what I say here is, what a chapter. Lestat going on with David on the phone for a couple of pages, having a conversation about this man he wants to switch bodies with, and finding out that he's known a thief that he's a known thief, that he has knowledge of this kind of thing. The actual man that he wants to switch bodies with already knows this thing. So This is where the change is about to begin. So by 165, this is where the actual change is about to begin. And I'm like, finally! 167. Wow, the excitement and craziness, the change wasn't what he expected. He experienced how his spirit made its way into the other body. Was a surprise to him how it managed to throw everything off. So right here, Lestat finally changes bodies, and it wasn't what he was expecting. Seeing this body in my mind, I see him standing up in this room, and he is finally in this body, and I kind of see him and the spirit and his body kind of, moving all around, and the spirit kind of making its way into the fingers, as is described in the book, that, this is not his body. His fingers are usually not that chunky, I guess, because they are big fingers, he says, and it's not something that he's used to, so he's kind of stumbling all over, and that's where that part stops. By 195, geez, what a chapter of Lestat getting to know the body of James, and let's just say, makes a huge mistake in this body when he meets a young woman, which he cannot take back. This is where he meets this young woman, which I forget what her name is. He meets her in a diner set kind of place, and she's working there, and things happen back and forth. They're talking, he's in the snow. He comes in from the snow and the cold outside, and he's like, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this, I don't have money to pay for food, and that's kind of what he wants. And so he comes into the diner. Page 200, I'll just put this for comedy relief. I thought this was pretty funny. Sorry to all you Twilight fans out there, but I finally made it to page 200. There is a funny line on this page I find so appropriate. There would be no Twilight, I realized that. Very sad indeed. Last chapter of the night. So that's just the last part that I was reading, and that was the last chapter that I read for the night when I was reading, so I just thought I'd put that out there. Sorry. By page 210, we are now seeing that Lestat is actually suffering in this body. He can't believe what a mess humans are, and it is really bothering him because he's like, how can humans really survive in this kind of body? They feel pain, they're leaking from every which way, they feel all these things that vampires don't feel. And he's like, why would you want to be a human, really? Page 219, Lestat is also sick, and he's suffering so bad that he feels like, I'm gonna die, and I can't go on in this body. And so he goes to the hospital, and it goes from there. Now here's a chapter I had to read twice. It was so cool the second time around. Lestat in the hospital with a fever, and it seems as though he is hallucinating as he is seeing Louis and Claudia in the hospital. At first I was like, what is this chapter about? I was kind of, foggy-headed, and I guess I didn't realize what I was reading. And so the second time around, this is all in his mind. He's not seeing Louis and Claudia in the hospital. He's hallucinating them because his fever is up so high since he has switched into this body of James. And, he's like, how can humans go on like this? This isn't good, And being a vampire, he wouldn't be sick. He would be fine. And he's just calling out for anybody, somebody help me. This isn't real. I don't want to feel like this. And yeah, he suffers a lot in this part. Page 237. One of the longest chapters in the book of Lestat, telling how this woman took care of him, and she didn't even know him. A nun of all people from the hospital. What he thought he was seeing had been an actual dream. So this nun woman wasn't exactly religious, let's just say. Like, she really didn't judge him. And he kept saying, you know, I'm bad, I'm evil, I'm this, I'm that. You know, I'm devilish. And this woman did not care. Like, she felt it in her heart that she would take care of him, because that was like her lifelong thing, that she gave up everything when her mother, I guess, passed away or something. And she felt the need to, or no, she didn't pass away, that this woman, she's suffering, and she gave up everything. And by doing that, her mother got well, and she felt that if she went back on her word, that nothing would ever happen again. You know, everything would be great. And so she turned her life over to God, doing good things. And so that's kind of the person she was to Lestat. And Lestat is like, you're not gonna turn away from me. You're not gonna leave me here sick with a fever. I'm sick, you know, I'm not feeling good. And she's like, no. She goes, we all make mistakes. You know, we're not perfect. And I feel the need to help everybody. I can help you, she was saying. And that's kind of where that part ends. Alright, so by page 240, I feel this part could have been left out, considering this woman that Lestat, that took care of Lestat, was an actual religious woman. She kind of felt, you know, that she was gonna help him, but one thing led to another, and they went back to her place, and sexual things did happen. And I was like, really? Do I really need to read that? And I felt that she was very upset about this. So Lestat, he kind of forced himself on her, and she's like, don't do it, you know, just don't do it. And she was really upset, this woman, and she asked him, why did you do it? And he wasn't sure why. So, you know, he's like, it happened, and he felt really bad about it at the end. But I was like, how can you feel that bad when you did it? And I was like, this is not really something that I feel is part of his story, I guess. It was just, I really feel that this part could have been left out. So I didn't really feel that it was a great chapter. It was really descriptive, which I was like, I really don't care for this kind of thing. So yeah, let's move on from that part. By page 256, this is where this woman Lestat had helping him back to health has grown on him, and he can't seem to let her go. She tells him how he uses her life to help people, that she gave everything else up in her life so that her mother would live, and that this may have been what guided her to him. Now he has to get back to himself, leaving her behind. I kind of felt that this character that Lestat met, this woman, was just there to kind of bring his human side out. And I kind of felt that this is, you know, this is a turning point. Something else is going to happen here. And again, we see kind of Lestat going on his own. You know, he needs to find his own way now. This woman took care of him. He can't do anything else now. Or she can't do anything else now. He has to move on. There's no other way around it. So I kind of felt that, you know, like any situation, somebody takes you to the hospital that you just met, you don't know them. They have to leave you in some time, you know. They have their own life. So, you know, he really felt attached to this woman, and there's nothing that he could do about it, and he was really upset. By page 262, this is where Lestat and Louis get back together. Lestat finally gets to where he needs to go, and finally meets his old friend Louis. but he doesn't recognize him. By page 273, good thing I didn't wait to read this chapter. Louis, Lestat's only friend, it would seem, could not help him. He didn't feel the need to turn him again. He leaves him in total emptiness that he may never see him again, and now he has no one to help him. So he seeks revenge on his friend and torches the place he was staying in and all his belongings. Awesome chapter. This chapter, I kind of saw it in my mind like it was a movie. I could see Lestat torching all the stuff in his house, his curtains at first, his books, and I was like, oh, the books, you know, they're old. And I was like, if they make this part into a movie, I'm gonna be so sad, you know. Books, they're part of our community, you know. Anyway, awesome chapter. I saw it all, you know. He burnt the place, and then finally he goes and walks out of this place, you know, and he's standing back in the snow, and he's watching the place go up, and it's like epic. I'm just like, you know, you're not gonna have your friend help you. Louis isn't going to help you, and also Marius is mentioned, and by this point Marius is kind of like a vision to him, and being a vision, you know, he sees Marius's eyes, and Marius is like, you know, just looking at him like, you did a bad thing, and so Marius is not going to help him, and so he kind of feels alone. He's thinking of the elders and how they're not going to help him. They're not there. So he kind of feels left alone, and he's really upset about this. So by page 300 now, Lestat has a plan in place, and now he wants to get his body back. He figured out that this man was giving him clues all along where he would be and what would happen next. And in this part, he kind of sees that he does have a plan, like, okay, I told him it would happen this place, this time, and that's where it would happen. But the guy was actually smarter than Lestat, and Lestat didn't see this coming because obviously he's a criminal. He's done this kind of thing before. And, you know, he's like, what am I going to do without my body? This body is vampirous, you know, it's preternatural. That's a word that Anne Rice uses in her books a lot. Preternatural is one of those words that it's mentioned throughout the whole book and through a lot of her books so far. And she mentions how it came about in some of her videos on YouTube as they interview her, and it's really, really cool to see where her stories came from and how they have evolved. So if you want to look those up, they're about an hour-long interview or so, but it's really interesting to see how she came up with that whole idea of the Vampire Chronicles. So by page 314, Lestat is now very eager to get his body back, and he's not going to stop because, you know, he wants to be himself again. He's not happy being a human anymore. So Lestat is so eager to get back into his body, he now knows how to do it, and spends what seems like his last days as a human in a moment doing a regular human thing, going out to the beach. He's like, if this is my only last moment being a human, I'm going to do something that I love, something that I enjoy, and that's going to be it. By page 327, Lestat and David come up with a plan to get his body back. They come up with a plan aboard the ship of this thief that this thief is on, and they think they can get him. Is it going to work? The anticipation. Anne is good at stretching the climax of her stories. I kind of felt that he was going to get it back there and then, you know, that the guy would finally give up knowing he was on the ship. But the weird part about it was that they were in his room, I guess, and they were right there, and supposedly, like, he was locked up in his suitcase, and they were poking him and everything, trying to wake him up. And it was kind of funny that he didn't wake up at first. He must have been in the vampiric state, I don't know, preternatural state. He just, you know, that part didn't seem real to me. So what I was kind of thinking in that part is, you know, if someone pokes you, you're gonna wake up. Not this guy. It kind of seems like he was in a trance state and that no one could wake him up. So I was like, what's the deal with that? This chapter was kind of weird for me. I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. By page 338, Lestat and David are kind of following this man around the ship, and they do almost come in contact with him. They see him and they're kind of watching. Following this man around the ship, watching his every move. It will be 3 more hours before Lestat will get his body back. Hopefully, you know, I was just like, please get your body back. Just, you know, let this part end and that'll be it, you know. But of course, Anne Rice will drag her stories out and the anticipation is everything, and it's amazing how she ends it. 341. What an ending to a roller coaster of a chase. Finally, the switch is made, but it continues. And that's 341. 347. With the switch done, Lestat is questioned about the whole situation and keeps quiet about it. All even about David as he managed to leave the ship. Lestat now escapes the ship and soars into the night. Love the description in this chapter. So what I see is that with Lestat finally getting his body back, he goes out to the ship on the dock, I guess, and he kind of like he soars, and like in his own body, he's able to, you know, lift his body into the air, and he soars into the night. And I just kind of saw him being on the ship, and I see all the sea, and I saw the moon shining on the water, and it was a really, really cool scene to see in my mind. By page 358, one of the hardest chapters to start, it seemed like the main part of the story was over. Then came this part. Lestat finding Gretchen in a gruesome state. That's what this girl's name is. I totally forgot what her name was, but her name is Gretchen. He didn't expect what he saw. I don't know if she killed herself or what happened. I don't know if I don't remember, but it was just, it just kind of happened when I read it. I was just like, okay. And he finds her in blood, so. By page 360, I think this is probably one of the shortest chapters in the book. It kind of shows Lestat taking a nap. That's all that happens in this chapter. And I just put fascinating. Page 371. Whoa, that's crazy. Lestat and David, but David's not himself, and this other being that went into Lestat has now found David's body and is now hurt while David pops up mysteriously. Too crazy. Yes, that does happen. David, his body is switched with this guy that was in Lestat, I guess. Kind of crazy. So it's like Lestat was changed finally, and this spirit guy, he managed to get himself into David, and now David's body is with this guy. This guy has David's body, and he's making all these wrong decisions, and this guy comes up to Lestat, and Lestat is kind of like, who are you? You know, this guy that comes up to him, and he's like, do I know you? You know? He's telling him, he's like, it's David. And he's like, if you're him, tell me this, tell me that, tell me this, tell me that. He's like, oh, I guess you are. And he's telling him like all these little things that he would know him by. And so it goes from there. By page 385, I was kind of confused reading this chapter. David is telling Lestat where he was when he left him that day when he left to Miami. After the man left Lestat's body, he went into David, and now he's out to find his body and see if a change is really worth it. By page 392, David can no longer use his old body as he's now trapped in his new body as it has passed away. I thought this chapter was really weird. Thinking about it, I was like, how does a body suddenly die if this guy is letting it die? He can't use his other body anymore, so he's kind of trapped in this body, and it doesn't ever say that he goes back to his other body because it's dead. So I thought that was pretty weird. Page 401. It looks like Lestat is getting his old place back he shared with Louis and all those years ago, updating it with his likes. So if you can imagine Lestat, he's like one of these one-of-a-kind guys, you know. He wants all the old things that he had before in his house, all these, you know, awesome looking vases and all these, you know, things that would be in the house that we read in Interview with the Vampire. He's telling the guy that is bringing him all these things and that is kind of making this house new again, but in the same time he's, you know, bringing the house to life, bringing it back to the old style. But Lestat, being the person he is, he's like, I want this, I want it to be this, you know. He wants what he wants, and that's, you know, that's it. By page 402, Lestat is finally wanting to be home, but yet he has to wait. By page 402, another short chapter, Lestat wanting to be home after he has traveled around, it would seem. So he doesn't have a home right now, and he is hiring this guy to bring him what he wants, obviously, because he has what he has and he wants what he wants. So yeah, how can you argue with that? 410, Lestat finally coming to terms with everything that's happened to him. His long lost friend, it would seem, has returned and starts talking about what has passed. This is Lestat and Louis, and they're talking about the past and how, you know, this happened, that happened, and Louis is talking to Lestat about the change. He's like, why would you ever do something like that? You know, that's not like you, but yet you are you, so you probably would do it anyway, you know. Why did you torch my house? Why did you do that? You know that, you know, I'm your friend, but the things that you do are not good to me, so I don't respect what you're doing. You're gonna do what you do. And Louis is saying, you know, I know you're not like that, and I feel that you're not respecting me. So he was upset, and he's like, you didn't listen to me anyway, so I torched the house, you know, it doesn't matter anymore. Page 411. Lestat lets us in on a little message to continue on, that this story should have ended, but it's best to continue. So this story really has been told, but with one page, a description this small, he's like, yeah, the story's ended, but it's best to continue. And that was pretty much all that was on that page. So this is the ending of everything that has just happened, and this is Lestat kind of telling us what happened, and this is the whole twist in this book, and I did not see this coming. And if you think about it from the beginning, you know, I never thought that David would give in to Lestat, and this is kind of where we see what happened. This is the whole twist, so this is what happened. Oh my god, what an ending. Lestat finally gives in to his emotions of turning his friend David over to be like him, and a long battle happens, and he forgives him after all he has done to him. Lestat gets this place redone and is finally satisfied. What an amazing ending. So what ends up happening is that Lestat actually does turn David, and the battle is the battle that David has with Lestat. Lestat gives in to his emotions, and he's like, I don't care what you say. You know, he never thought he would do this again. So he rushes to David and bites his neck, turning him into a vampire, turning him over to the dark side. Something he never wanted to happen to him, but yet Lestat did it. And after that, David asked Lestat, why did you do it? And Lestat's like, I don't know, I gave in to what, you know, I'm kind of about. This is me, this is who I am. I don't know any other way. And after all that, David does forgive him, and they go on living their life, and they go to some carnival, and that's kind of where the whole story ends. And I'm sure that's where the next story will pick up. So I cannot wait to read Memnon the devil, because they were kind of hinting at stuff that would happen in this book, knowing, you know, that Lestat is trying to give us this little description. He's like, I am evil, I am this, I am the devil, I am, you know, I am that and this and that, whatever. But I think it continues in this book. So overall, I give this book, The Tale of a Body Thief, I give this a 5-star rating. It was that good. I cannot wait to get into Memnon the Devil. I'm not sure what happens in that book, but I am really, really excited to get into it. I do want to actually keep going with it this year. So if I do switch over and not wanting to read another book that I told you I would read, or if I eventually get to those, I will eventually get to this because it is really short. As you can see right there, it's not that long. It is 430 pages. So yeah, there is that one, Memnon the Devil. So yeah, that concludes my book review for The Tale of a Body Thief by Anne Rice. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope to have another book review up soon for Memnon the Devil. Whenever I get to that one, let's see what happens. I'm actually reading A Feast for Crows right now, the 4th book in the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. So whenever I finish that one and decide to do a long book review on that one, I will give you that video. I'm kind of thinking right now if I want to get into the next book, because I was talking to Stacy from Magic of Books, and she is actually continuing on into the next book, book 5, A Dance with Dragons, and I'm not sure I want to actually go there yet. So let's see by this book what I want to read, because I right now am really enjoying the book, and I want to see what happens next, because Cersei is really, you know, she's on a power trip right now. I'm like, what is wrong with this woman? She just, you know, everybody dies and she wants power. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book right here, The Tale of a Body Thief. I'm really enjoying getting back into the Song of Ice and Fire series. My reading hasn't been that great lately because I want to talk to you a little bit about this book. This is Finding Camlann by Sean Pigeon. This is the book that got me into a book slump, and I really rushed through this book because well, not really rushed through it because I was pacing myself, but the descriptions in this book are the thing that, you know, threw me, and it wasn't really that good. So if I could, I would have given it a 2-star rating or a 2.3. The descriptions that were good were only 2 descriptions of something that happened in the book, but overall everything else that happened was like part of some other story. It's like, you know, they would go back and forth in the stories, and I didn't think this book was that good. So I thought it was gonna be better. Look at the cover, you know, they have that cover. I thought that would be pretty cool, but it's just like, you know, they were studying Camelot, Arthur, Merlin, whatever. So yeah, wasn't really that great. So that's kind of what I thought about it. So yeah, getting back to this book, yeah, that's the ending, and thank you for watching. Thank you to all my new subscribers. I am really happy you guys are watching my videos. Please comment down below if you like this video. I will be getting up more videos soon, more book reviews hopefully, because it takes me some time to get through some books because I do have a job that keeps me really busy, and there's times I don't want to read and I'm really tired, really exhausted when I get home, but I do take the time to do a video when I get home, and I'm really happy to do it. Today I just felt really excited to do a new video, and I'll be getting more up soon. So if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.